So, Brother Ryan,
Yes.
why did you become a brother?
Are we ready? One simple reason. A brother I had in high school for 2 years of science. He's the reason I became a brother. And the year I entered, he left and got married. It's true. That is true. He was such a wonderful person. I thought I'd like to live the same kind of a life.
How long have you been a brother?
50 years, last July 8th.
If you wanted to go into a religious life, why did you become a brother over a priest?
Because I wanted to teach. Most priests don't teach. They say Mass and the sacraments. I wanted to be a teacher. Most brothers are teaching brothers.
When did you decide you were going to be a brother?
Probably when I was 16, when I had him for sophomore biology.
What went into your decision-making process?
I was 17 when I entered. Not much thought went into it. I was only 17. I just felt I wanted to be a brother and live my life the way he was living his until he got married.
Where have you been during your brotherhood?
3 schools. St. John's High School in Shrewsbury for 16 years. St. Joseph's Regional High School in Montvale, New Jersey for 5 years. And Xavier High School for the last, I think, 21 years.
Why did you become a brother?
The influence of people I had around me who were brothers, particularly in school. I had the brothers since I was in the 6th grade, and that was a big attraction to me. I think the environment that I was brought up in was a very Catholic environment and very service-oriented. I think that was a contributing factor. And the educational component as well, interested in academics and in schools, so it was a fit from that point of view.
Okay. How long have you been a brother?
55 years, since 1961.
If you wanted to go into religious life, why did you become a brother over a priest?
First of all, because of the brothers I came into contact with in school. I think also that I saw this as an opportunity of doing education, and I saw it as an opportunity of service rather than sacramental ministry, which was more attractive to me. Also, the aspect of community life was a factor.
When did you decide you were going to be a brother?
Well, probably very early on. From the 6th grade on, I had the brothers in school, so I was interested at that point, but I think I was interested earlier than that even because of the type of environment I was brought up in, which was a very Catholic environment.
What went into your decision-making process?
Into my decision about what?
Becoming a brother. What went into the process?
Well, they say, I think the environment I was brought up in encouraged people to join religious life. I think the brothers I knew and what they were doing and respect for education at the time, I wanted to be part of that. The ability to contribute in a very positive way, particularly in something I was interested in, which was school and academics. I've always been interested in the academic scene, so all of those factors contributed. I think the most important thing was the people that I knew who were brothers, and did admire them as far as it went.
Where have you been during your brotherhood?
In places I've taught. Let's see, 3 schools in Massachusetts. Xavier in Westwood, St. John's in Shrewsbury, Mall, Catholic. I'm taught in Los Angeles, Bishop Alamany High School. Taught in New Jersey, and taught in New York for 6 years.
All right, thank you very much.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So why did you want to become a brother?
Why did I?
Yes.
I felt I could be of service to young teenagers. And I had seen what the 11 brothers did and were able to do at Malden Catholic when I was a student there, and I liked what I saw, and I thought that would be a good way to spend my life.
So how long have you been a brother?
62 years.
So if you wanted to go into religious life, why did you become a brother over a priest?
I was not attracted to the sacramental part of the vocation as much as I was personally dealing with teenagers, young men.
So when did you decide you were going to be a brother?
I was thinking about it when I was in the 7th grade, but I never did anything about it until my senior year. And that part of the story is never told anyone until the night of the senior prom at the Dorothy Quincy Suite in the John Hancock building in Boston. I was with my girlfriend, Margaret. We were from Melrose. And during the course of the prom, I said to her, Margaret, I have something I really need to tell you. And that's when I told her that I was seriously thinking of joining the Xaverian Brothers when I graduated from Malden Catholic. And I told her I hadn't told anybody, I hadn't discussed it with my parents, I hadn't discussed it with the brothers. Brother Alexis Joseph was the not the athletic director, he was the vocation director. And I hadn't discussed it with anybody, so I had some work to do, which I got after the prom was over and so forth. Then I started preparing that idea.
So what went into your decision-making process?
I'm sorry?
Oh, what went into your decision-making process?
Knowing that it was not just a whim. It was something that I really felt I wanted to do, and I was really drawn to it. After I told people and everything, and I felt comfortable with that idea, especially my parents. You know, because up until that time, I was seriously thinking of going to college, and obviously they were going to have to be involved with, paying for me to go to college and so on and so forth. So I needed desperately, if you will, to tell brothers so that I could get that in motion, that when the next class was being accepted into the congregation, that I would be a part.
So where have you been during your brotherhood?
Okay, after the novitiate, which was in went to Columbia University and got a master's in math, because I was attracted to teaching math. And and I was there for 4 years. And then, lo and behold, I got an appointment to go to St. John's High School in Shrewsbury, Mass. And I actually ended up being there for 23 years. In the very beginning, when I arrived in Shrewsbury, I was assigned to the athletic department as an athletic director. However, I didn't last long at that, 4 years, and then there was a necessity to replace the Dean of Discipline, and Brother Joseph Gerard, who was the superior and the principal of the school, chose me to be the disciplinarian, and I was a disciplinarian for the remainder of my time at St. John's in Shrewsbury, which, as I said, all told was 23 years. And then I got transferred to Xavier High School in Middletown, Connecticut, And there, I was the director of admissions. And I did that job for 16 years. And it was at that particular school where I had the unfortunate accident in which I had to give up Xavier High School because I ended up in a needing major surgery to replace the left leg, which was completely shattered in the accident, and I had to get a new left leg, if you will, which was all made up of a rod and nuts and bolts. Let's put it that way. And I spent 70 days in a rehab to learn how to walk and move around and so on and so forth with these new parts that I had in my left leg. And then when I left there, I couldn't go back to Xavier because Xavier had nothing but stairs. They had no elevators, and at the time, I was having difficulty moving around. But once so I was transferred to our retirement home up in Danvers, Mass, which is on the property of St. John's Prep. And that's where I am now. But after I had been there for a while, I had an interview with the Superior General, Brother Driscoll, and I said to him, you know, I just can't stand being in this house during the day because there's nothing for me to do. I am not, my leg is healed, I can move around, I can get around and so forth. So he suggested that I could get connected with one of two schools, either St. John's Prep or having been a graduate of Malden Catholic. He said there was a new headmaster going into Malden Catholic, and I think you would get along very well with him. Why don't you just go down and talk with him? So I did, and I've been at Malden Catholic since, going on 3 years.
Also, thank you, brother, for your time.
Okay.
That was a good interview. Okay,
That's
thank
it?
you. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Very good.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Hi, Brother Brian. We're just going to ask you a few questions for the interview. So why did you become a brother?
I became a brother, I guess, because of the example of the brothers I had in high school. When I was a high school student, most of my teachers were brothers, no longer true these days, and it was their example. I was impressed by how they treated us, what type of teachers they were, and that's basically why. It was their example.
That's very cool. How long have you been a brother for?
Since 1963. I've been a brother for 53 years.
There you go.
I had to count that for a minute.
And why or how did you feel more called to be a brother over a priest or instead of a priest?
Okay, well, I guess, like I said for the first question, because I got to know the brothers pretty well in high school. Nothing against the parish priests. We had 7 priests in the parish when I was young, and they were great. But it was the personal connection that probably made the difference.
Okay.
I should answer that also, another reason for that. Also because the brothers asked me.
Yeah. So the next question kind of rolls into that too. When did you decide to become a brother, or when did you feel called?
Mm-hmm. I would say that I was thinking about that probably from about sophomore year of high school on, and then, as I mentioned, at least one of the brothers was speaking to me about the possibility, and so I had decided by the beginning of my senior year in high school, and entered the brothers right after high school.
Wow.
That was not unusual at that point either. Most of us did enter right after high school. I was 17, barely 17. You might be older than me now. I don't know.
Yeah, that is. Wow.
Yeah. My 17th birthday was in May, and I entered the Brothers in July.
Wow. And what went into your decision-making process? Was it like a series of steps, or was it just like?
Yeah, I'd say a series of steps, talking with the Brothers vocation director, who of course would encourage me to pray about it, obviously. Informing my parents what I was thinking of doing. My father's not Catholic, so he didn't really understand exactly what it was all about, except that he liked the brothers he had met on parent nights and so forth in high school, except for one. There was one brother, he said, if you turn out to be like him, I'm going to drag you home. He didn't think he was very kind.
And then the last question is, where have you been during your brotherhood? Where has it taken you in the world?
Okay. Well, when I entered the Brothers, our novitiate earlier training was in Middletown, Southern Maryland. I went to Catholic University in Washington, D.C. undergrad. I went from there to teaching at St. X in Louisville, Kentucky, where I was for 10 very happy years. I then became an elementary school principal at a Catholic parish outside of Washington. Came to Xavier in 1982 as the Dean of Students, which I would never want to do again. Went from here to St. John's Prep in Danvers for 14 years. Malden Catholic for 9 years. And I was principal of Malden Catholic when they asked if I would return here in 2009.
It's a long time.
That's a road trip. Yeah. So I've been in school since I began teaching in 1969.
Okay. Wow.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay. You're very welcome.
So why did you become a Xaverian brother?
Well, my first attraction to the life of the Brothers was when I was a student in Xaverian College, Manchester, probably aged about 17, hearing about the work of the Brothers in Africa and elsewhere in England. And I was attracted to the life of the teaching brother.
How long have you been a brother?
I've been a brother for 37 years.
Wow. If you wanted to go into religious life, why did you become a brother over a priest?
I had thought about the priesthood when I was perhaps 13 or 14, but I think many Catholic boys would think about that. And when I actually met the Xaverian brothers, there was a stronger attraction to the way of life, particularly the fact that the brothers lived in community, and the brothers' life at that time still had a lot of monastic aspects to it, some of which still exist today, but the lifestyle of the brothers in community, praying together, working together, recreating together, seemed much more attractive than the solitary life of the parish priest.
When did you decide you were going to be a brother?
But the initial attraction was while I was still at school. The brothers advised me to go off to university and do my studies, and so during that time I continued to think about it, and I would visit the brothers both during term time and during the vacations during my university years. And by the time I was in final year at university, I made the decision to make a formal application.
What went into your decision-making process? Like, did you ask anyone? Did you pray about it?
Well, I certainly prayed about it. I used to talk a lot with the chaplain at university. I continued to speak with the brothers, both in Manchester, in London, in Mayfield. I was able to go on retreat, a retreat suggested by Brother Anthony, along with many other young men who were thinking of either religious life or priesthood, and we were able to talk and explore ideas together.
Where have you been during your brotherhood?
My first 10 years were spent teaching at the Brothers' College in Manchester, in England. Following that, I went into the prison service full-time to work as a chaplain. I'd already been doing some voluntary work teaching, first of all, young offenders, aged 16 to 21, and then working with the adult convicted population in the Manchester prison. And that gradually led me to going full-time into prison ministry. I spent 12 years following that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where I worked in formation, training the young brothers, i.e. the novices, the scholastics, working in administration for the brothers, and latterly doing some teaching in a small English-speaking school, whilst continuing to look after the scholasticate, and for the last 6 months or so here in Connecticut.